I hear a lot of people complain when a game is delayed by a couple of months, and this is something that I've never found to be that bad. Apart from the fact that delaying a game is almost always going to be a benefit to the quality of said game, it could be a whole lot worse. There's few more disappointing things than wasted potential. The vast majority of games released to the public have had a huge amount of thought and effort put into them, but the prospect of these exertions being for nothing is a bitter pill to swallow. Games get cancelled for a number of reasons. Lack of funding, dwindling interest or motivation in the project, or maybe even a massive argument, but they all result in a game never seeing the light of day. What makes this worse is that we often get screenshots and trailers in the build-up specifically designed to get us excited. It wouldn't be so bad if a game got discontinued behind closed doors and we never knew a thing about it, but when you raise the expectations of fans only to dash them so suddenly, it's powerful stuff. Don't complain about a game getting delayed, it'll come out eventually. Or so you'd hope. Now seems like a good enough opportunity to tell a story. I don't get too many occasions to do so, you gotta take the chances when they present themselves. Way back in 2003, there were plans afoot between Nintendo and Capcom for the latter to produce 5 games exclusively for the GameCube in an attempt to boost hardware sales and showcase third-party developer support. The idea being that these 5 really good games would attract a bit of interest in Nintendo's Cube, but let's just put it this way. Only one of these games stayed a GameCube exclusive and didn't go down well, and one of these supposed gaming saviors didn't even happen. It's almost like Capcom saw this coming. If you're gonna cancel a game, there's few better names for a project that never got too far off the ground than Dead Phoenix. I mean, it's so appropriate that I'm not sure what joke to make. Something about revival, you're not gonna save anything from the ashes, Phoenixes don't die, whatever. The idea behind Dead Phoenix was a third-person shooter where you fly around these pretty huge maps and shoot people with these hand cannon thing, and if this looks a lot like a Sin and Punishment or Kid Icarus Uprising kind of game to you, yeah, that's because it does. We didn't get a ton of info on this before it sank, but it did look like it would push the GameCube to its limits. It does look quite nice for the time, and those maps are quite large. Hard to say exactly what we missed out on, but looks promising enough. Dead Phoenix was never officially cancelled by Capcom, but when they were questioned about its status, they kept dodging the question. It's almost like, hey, how's Dead Phoenix going? Killer 7 is going great, thanks for asking. And even though it's been more than a decade since then and the vast majority of people have stopped caring, I like to imagine that they're still doing this. It's both kinda sad and also really funny in a way. Where would we be without spin-off franchises? Probably not too far away from where we are now. I don't think the world would be in any less of a delicate balance if we didn't have the ability to play Mario Kart. But there's still plenty of time and space for side games. Hey, when you have those crazy urges to do weird things with your existing IPs, spin-off games are there to soak up those creative juices instead of them tainting the main series in some way. If you want an example of where a split should have been made, look no further than Rayman Raving Rabbids. Someone decided at some point that the future of Rayman wasn't in 3D platforming games, and instead he needed the company of some weird rabbit creatures. And while I do like the rabbits quite a bit, funny that, I'm not so keen on where it took the Rayman series. Did kinda kill the franchise. While Rayman Raving Rabbids warped the franchise in the direction of a minigame compilation, there were plans for what would have been a 4th Rayman platformer. Ideas were taken both from the early designs of Rayman 4 and Raving Rabbids for the GBA release of Raving Rabbids, which was more of a 2D side-scroller, but you only have to look at the concept art for some of the areas that might have been used in Rayman 4 to really feel the sting of where the series went instead. Maybe because it represents a greater decline for 3D platformers that gaming never really recovered from, but would I take a minigame game over another Rayman game? Not in a million years. And no amount of Rabbids could change that. As a way of making money, there are a few franchises out there in all of modern media that can print the green stuff like Star Wars. Clearly the films are where the serious moolah comes from, but history has shown that you can never rule out the importance of a good tie-in game. Or hell, even a game that does its own thing within the same universe. You've only got to look at the likes of Rogue Squadron, both Knights of the Old Republic games, the first Force Unleashed, the pre-EA Battlefronts. It's all good stuff. So when it was announced that a Star Wars game was in the works that would take a more gritty stance on matters, and I think would actually have gotten a mature rating on the box, you can already start adding Star Wars 1313, 1313, 1300, nah, that's stupid. You can already start adding this Star Wars game to the list, and yet, typically, there was a pretty massive stumbling block. Hey, you know what might get in the way of a darker Star Wars game? Maybe selling the entire Star Wars brand to a company famous for kid-friendly content, and, helpfully enough, a reputation for being ruthless wherever possible. The Disney takeover in 2012 raised a few eyebrows across the world, but the films don't seem, at this early stage, to have been too badly affected by it. The games, however, are a different story. I believe the basis behind the takeover was that the films were a priority, and so development on Star Wars 1313 was at first halted and then later shut down, with developer LucasArts suffering massive layoffs and now existing as a mere skeleton. The trademark for Star Wars 1313 hasn't been renewed, so it's safe to say that, for the moment, this one is pretty dead. And yet the Star Wars games aren't. They're safely in the perfectly capable hands of this upcoming new indie developer called Electronic Arts. A fate worse than death, frankly. Cancelling a game is never a good thing to hear about, but it only gets worse when a game you're looking forward to has the plug pulled from it. This goes further than just seeing some early screenshots and liking what you see. This is a new game in a series that hasn't seen a lot of action recently. The world does occasionally need some more Mega Man. Is it safe to say that Mega Man is a franchise that peaked too soon? The classic series had a brief reprise at the end of the last decade, but the X series has been over for 11 years and we haven't had an original Mega Man game of any sort since 2010. There's a reason for this that I'll get onto in a bit, but one of the last rays of hope came and went just a year later with the ill-fated Mega Man Legends 3. It was a great recipe, a new game in a series that hadn't seen an entry since the year 2000 to be developed for the Nintendo 3DS, showing that Mega Man still has some appeal to a wider gaming audience. Things didn't just go badly, they went pretty horrendously. In October 2010, Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man, quit Capcom. By the looks of it, you can trace it back to an interview where he talked about falling out of love with his job as a game developer and wanting to retire early. In which case, fair play to the man, you gotta love what you're doing for a living. Predictably, Inafune's departure meant that work on Mega Man games ground to a halt since they remained property of Capcom, and Mega Man Legends 3 went from being a series revival to being hidden away in the pages of history. There's been a few petitions to try and get the game back, and Inafune himself has said that he'd like to finish the game, but with 5 years down the road and no closer to the game being resuscitated. And Inafune? Oh, he's still making games. I'd love to let you know what they're like, but Mighty No. 9 has been delayed for a third time now. Gonna be an old man by the time that game comes out. We all love a good argument from time to time. As long as it doesn't escalate too much, it's a completely healthy occurrence that exercises our ability to structure thought in a way that gets across our opinion in a coherent manner. It's only really when the arguments go a little too far and become a little more serious that they start to affect more public matters, like video games. Let's just go with this. Konami pissed off a lot of people last year. I feel like no amount of hyperbole can really do the situation surrounding Silent Hill's justice. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I struggle to find a situation in the history of gaming like it. This is like Mega Man Legends 3, but cranked up to some ridiculous number way past 11. Unlike a lot of other games that end up getting cancelled, Silent Hills, or PT, didn't exist as a few screenshots or a trailer. You could download the playable teaser off the PlayStation Store and take in all the wonders of the demo. And there were a lot of wonders. Very few games over the last 20 years or so have come close to achieving the same kind of calculated scares as that short extract of Silent Hill showed off. The kind of fear that withholds just enough information and changes your surroundings in subtle little ways to put you on the very edge of your seat. PT was a horror masterclass, but that's all it was ever allowed to be. The unfinished state in which Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain was released in was a bit disappointing, but it doesn't hold a candle to how devastating the death of Silent Hills was last year. Maybe because the potential for the game to be great was right in front of us, but it really does feel like one of the greatest missed opportunities in gaming history. Conflicts between Konami and Hideo Kojima, who had worked on the game alongside Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus, led to a pretty big falling out between Konami and Kojima, resulting in the latter's departure from the company, but you already knew all of this. In the end, all we have is this snapshot of what could have been. The playable teaser that did exactly that. Tease. You gotta know that any PS4s with PT on them are worth a bundle now. This has been RabbidLuigi, and while the abandonment of Silent Hills was one of the biggest letdowns of 2015, like any scenario like this, life goes on. Kojima now has his own studio, Konami have folded like a pack of cards, and there have been images surfacing that show meetups between the Dream Team, so there might yet be a project in the works of some sort. I guess we should look out for Quiet Mound at some point in the future. Got a topic that you'd like me to discuss in a countdown? Leave a suggestion in a comment below and head over to my Twitter, where I'll be holding a vote to decide the subject of the next countdown based off the best of your submissions. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that. Been a tricky week or so for me. Towards the back end of last week I was coming down with something funky, but it didn't seem bad enough to really think about giving this week a rest. Pretty much I was feeling under the weather, but my voice was fine. It was functioning to the levels that I need for my videos. Though frankly there would have been something beautiful about cancelling a countdown the week I would have talked about cancelled games. Oh well, maybe next time. Anyway, feeling better now, so I'm thinking about talking about glitches next week for the top 10, and if you got any suggestions for that, that'll be fantastic. Surprisingly enough, I've never covered that topic on my channel before. About time I changed that, methinks.